Here is the YouTube voiceover script, written for high retention, psychological engagement, and natural conversational flow. No headings, no robotic structure, just a script that feels alive. What would you do if 3 words, harmless words you've probably said 100 times, could cost you your license, your savings, or even your freedom? Right now, somewhere, a driver is about to open their mouth. They think they're being helpful, they think they're being honest, and within seconds, they will say something that cannot be unsaid, something that a lawyer is already waiting to hear. So let me ask you directly, be honest. Have you ever been in a small fender bender, or even a close call, and said, "I'm sorry"? Go ahead and comment. Type "sorry" if you've ever said it without thinking. Because according to attorneys who handle thousands of accident claims every single year, those 2 words, or any version of them, are the single fastest way to destroy your own case. And most drivers have no idea. Most people think an apology is just good manners. It's human decency. You bump into someone, you say sorry, you make a mistake, you apologize. That's how we were raised. That's how polite society works. But here's the part nobody tells you. Behind the steel and glass of your vehicle, the rules change. The moment you say "I'm sorry" after a car accident, you are not being polite. You are being strategic in the worst possible way. You are handing a loaded weapon to the other driver's insurance company and asking them to please point it at your wallet. Stay with me, because this next part matters more than almost anything else you think you know about driving. My name is not important. What matters is that for the last several years, I've been studying how lawyers think, how insurance adjusters build cases, and why perfectly intelligent people, doctors, engineers, even other lawyers, make the same catastrophic mistake within seconds of a crash. And it almost always starts with the same reflex, the apology reflex. But before we go deeper, let me make you a promise. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what to say, what not to say, and why silence, temporary, strategic silence, is the most powerful tool you have after an accident. You will learn the one sentence that protects you better than any dash cam, and you will never look at a fender bender the same way again. That's not hype. That's just how the law works when you know the rules they don't teach in driver's ed. Let's rewind. Picture this. It's a Tuesday afternoon, light rain. You're at a 4-way stop. You glance down for 1 second to change the radio station. Just 1 second. And when you look up, the car in front of you has stopped short. You tap their bumper. No airbags, no blood. Just a small dent and a very angry person getting out of their car. Your heart is pounding. Adrenaline is flooding your system. And because you're a decent human being, you roll down your window and say the first thing that comes to mind, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was completely my fault. I wasn't paying attention." Here's what just happened. In less than 10 seconds, you admitted liability. You confessed to distraction. You gave the other driver's insurance company a signed confession without a single piece of paper changing hands. And here's the cruelest part. You might not even be legally at fault. Did you know that in many jurisdictions, the rear driver is not automatically liable if the front driver braked erratically, had broken brake lights, or reversed unexpectedly? Did you know that some states use comparative negligence, meaning the other driver could be 20, 30, even 40% responsible? None of that matters the second you say "my fault." Because in the eyes of the law, your own words are evidence, and evidence doesn't have feelings. Evidence doesn't care that you were just trying to be nice. A lawyer I spoke to, let's call him Mark, 23 years handling personal injury, told me about a case that still makes him shake his head. A young woman, let's call her Sarah, was rear-ended at a stoplight. The other driver got out, immediately apologized, said he was reaching for his coffee, said he just didn't see her. Open and shut, right? His insurance offered a settlement, but then Sarah's lawyer pulled the traffic camera footage. What did it show? Sarah had put her car in reverse at the red light. She had backed into him. The other driver wasn't at fault at all, but because he said "I'm sorry, my fault," his insurance company paid out $50,000. His premiums tripled. He lost his safe driver discount for 5 years, and he never even touched her car. The apology did that. Not the accident. The apology. This is where people get defensive. They say, "But I'm not going to lie. If I hit someone, I should take responsibility." And I hear you. Integrity matters. But here's the distinction most people miss. Taking responsibility and admitting fault at the scene of an accident are 2 completely different things. One is a legal process that happens after evidence is gathered, after police reports are filed, after you've spoken to your own insurance company and possibly a lawyer. The other is a panicked, adrenaline-soaked statement made on a public road where you cannot possibly know all the facts. You don't know if the other driver is injured, but the adrenaline is masking it. You don't know if they were texting. You don't know if their brake lights were working. You don't know if there's surveillance footage from a nearby store that shows everything differently. You don't know what you don't know. And yet most drivers act like they have perfect knowledge in the worst possible moment to make decisions. Let me ask you something. Have you ever said something in an argument that you immediately regretted? Something that wasn't even true, but you said it because you were emotional? Now multiply that by 1,000. That's what happens at an accident scene. Your brain is in fight or flight mode. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decision-making, literally shuts down. You are operating on reflex. And the reflex to apologize is one of the most deeply conditioned responses in human psychology. We apologize when we bump into someone at the grocery store. We apologize when someone else steps on our foot. We apologize for existing in someone's way. So of course, when metal hits metal, your mouth is going to try to smooth things over. That's not weakness. That's being human. But being human can cost you $40,000. Here's the wrong way versus the right way. The wrong way is what 90% of drivers do. They get out, they apologize profusely, they explain what they were doing, they speculate about fault, they say things like, "I didn't even see you," or "I was looking at my GPS," or "I can't believe I did that." Every single one of those phrases is a gift to an opposing lawyer. They will print out your words, they will highlight them, they will show them to a jury, and a jury will think, well, they admitted it themselves. Game over. The right way feels almost rude, the right way feels wrong, but the right way is the only way that protects you. After an accident, assuming no one needs immediate medical attention, you do this. You check on the other driver with one neutral question. Are you okay? That's it. Not "I'm sorry," not "my bad," not "I wasn't paying attention," just "Are you okay?" Then you exchange information. Insurance, license, registration. You take photos of both vehicles from multiple angles. You get witness contact information if anyone stopped. And then this is the part that saves people. You say these exact words. "I'm going to wait for the police to arrive, and then I'll be happy to provide a statement after I've spoken with my insurance company." Do you hear what that sentence does? It says nothing about fault. It says nothing about what you saw or didn't see. It simply states that you will cooperate within a reasonable framework. That's it. That's the magic. You are not being uncooperative. You are not being dishonest. You are simply declining to make a legal statement until you have had time to calm down, gather your thoughts, and talk to someone who knows the law. That is your right. And insurance companies hate it, which means it's working. But here's where it gets even more interesting. And I want you to listen closely because this is the part almost no one talks about. Even if you don't say the words "I'm sorry," you can still accidentally admit fault through other casual statements. For example, "I was reaching for my phone" is an admission of distraction. "I didn't see the light change" is an admission of inattention. "My foot slipped off the brake" is an admission of loss of control. Even "I feel terrible about this" can be interpreted as a guilty conscience. Lawyers are trained to look for anything that suggests you believe you were responsible. They don't need a confession. They just need a preponderance of implication. And most drivers hand them a buffet of implications within the first 60 seconds. There's a psychological principle at work here called the commitment bias. Once you say something out loud, especially under stress, you become more likely to continue believing it and acting on it. So if you say "I'm sorry" at the scene, you are not just hurting your legal position, you are actually changing your own memory of the event. Studies have shown that people who apologize immediately after an accident are significantly more likely to later report that the accident was their fault, even when video evidence shows otherwise. Your words rewrite your own brain. That's terrifying. But it's also an opportunity, because if you can just stay quiet for 10 minutes, you give yourself the chance to see the situation clearly. Let me give you a real example that changed how I think about this forever. A man in Texas was stopped at a red light. The car behind him hit him at about 15 miles per hour. Minor damage. The other driver got out and immediately said, "Man, I'm so sorry. I was looking at my GPS and I just didn't see you stopped." The man in the front car said nothing. He just took photos, called the police, and waited. When the police arrived, the other driver repeated his apology. The officer wrote it in the report, seemed open and shut, but then the man in the front car noticed something. The other driver's insurance company was fighting the claim. They said their client had been cut off by a third car and that the apology was just shock and confusion. They argued that the front car had brake-checked them. Without the apology, that argument would have been laughable. With the apology, it became a he said, she said. The case dragged on for 11 months. The front car driver eventually settled for less than half his repair costs because his lawyer said the apology created ambiguity. The apologizer didn't help himself. He didn't help the other guy. He just made everything worse for everyone. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but what if I really am at fault? What if I ran a red light or I was genuinely distracted? Shouldn't I just own it? And here's the honest answer from every defense attorney I've ever asked. No. Not at the scene, not to the other driver, not to the police without your own counsel present. Here's why. Even if you are 100% at fault, your insurance company has a legal duty to defend you. That's what you pay them for. But if you admit fault at the scene, you take away their ability to negotiate. You force them into a losing position. You might even void your own coverage if your policy has a clause about admitting liability without consent. Yes, that exists. Read your policy. It's in there more often than you think. So even if you feel guilty, even if you know you messed up, your job is to be quiet, exchange information, and let the process work. Guilt is a feeling, fault is a legal determination. They are not the same thing. This is the part where I need you to really pay attention, because we're about to go deeper than almost any other video on this topic. The apology reflex isn't just about car accidents. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of how communication works under stress. Most people think that apologizing de-escalates conflict, And sometimes, in social situations, it does. But in legal situations, it does the opposite. It escalates your exposure. It invites the other party to see you as a target. Insurance adjusters have a term for drivers who apologize at the scene. They call them golden geese. Because once you've admitted fault, they know you'll be easy to pressure. They know you won't fight back. They know your own guilt will make you accept a lowball settlement just to make the problem go away. And they are right. Because the same person who says, "I'm sorry" at the scene is the same person who says, "Okay, fine, just pay me something 3 months later." The apology is the first domino. Let me give you a step-by-step breakdown of what actually happens after an accident in the mind of an insurance adjuster. Step 1, they get the claim. Step 2, they look for any statement from either party admitting fault. Step 3, if they find one, they flag the file as low-hanging fruit. Step 4, they make an initial offer that is significantly below what the claim is actually worth. Step 5, they wait. Most people accept because they feel guilty and just want it over. Step 6, the adjuster closes the file and gets a bonus for saving the company money. That's it. That's the system. And it runs on apologies. Without your apology, they have to actually investigate. They have to look at the damage patterns, the skid marks, the witness statements, the traffic camera footage. They have to do work. And when they have to do work, the settlement is fairer. Not perfect, but fairer. So every time you stop yourself from saying, "I'm sorry," you are not being rude. You are forcing the system to work the way it was designed to work. Now I want to address a specific fear that comes up every time I talk about this. People worry that if they don't apologize, they'll look like a jerk. They worry the other driver will get angry. They worry the police officer will think they're being uncooperative. Let me put those fears to rest. You can be calm, polite, and cooperative without admitting fault. Watch this. The other driver says, "You hit me." You say, "I understand you're upset. Let's exchange information and wait for the police." The other driver says, "Are you going to admit you weren't paying attention?" You say, "I'm not going to discuss fault at the scene. Let's just make sure everyone is okay." The police officer asks, "What happened?" You say, "Officer, I'd prefer to provide a written statement after I've had a chance to speak with my insurance company, but I'm happy to give you my license and registration." Do you see how none of those responses are rude? None of them are evasive in a suspicious way. They are simply boundary setting. And boundaries are not aggression. Boundaries are self-respect. There is a famous case from Florida that law students study. A woman named Patricia was stopped at a red light. A teenager rear-ended her at low speed. The teenager got out crying, apologizing, saying it was his first accident, saying his mom was going to kill him. Patricia felt bad for him. She told him, "Don't worry, it was just a little tap, no harm done." Then she drove away without even getting his information. 3 days later, she got a call from his insurance company. The teenager had claimed that Patricia reversed into him at the light. And because Patricia had said it was just a little tap and no harm done, the insurance company argued that she had admitted the contact occurred and that she had minimized the damage. They used her own words against her. She had no photos. No police report, no witness. She ended up paying for her own repairs, and her rates went up, all because she was trying to be nice. Nice is expensive. Polite but strategic is free. I want you to sit with that for a second. Being nice almost cost Patricia thousands of dollars. And the teenager, he learned that apologizing didn't protect him either. It just made both of them vulnerable. This is the paradox of the apology reflex. It hurts the person who says it, and it hurts the person who hears it, because it creates a false sense of resolution. Real resolution comes from facts, not feelings. And facts take time. So here's your new script. Write this down if you need to. Put it in your phone. Memorize it. After any accident, regardless of fault, regardless of how small, regardless of how sorry you feel, you will say the following in this order. First, are you okay? Second, let's move our cars to a safe location if possible. Third, I'm going to call the police. Fourth, while waiting, take photos and video. Fifth, when asked what happened, say, "I'm not comfortable discussing fault right now. I'd like to wait until I've spoken with my insurance company." That's it. That's the whole script. 6 sentences. They will save you more money than any dash cam, any insurance discount, any defensive driving course, because they protect you from yourself. And here's the final piece of psychology that most lawyers won't tell you because they want you to keep making mistakes so they have clients. The reason this works isn't just legal. It's neurological. When you refuse to apologize at the scene, you are breaking a pattern. You are interrupting the automatic script that runs in your brain, and that interruption gives your prefrontal cortex time to come back online. It gives you time to think. It gives you time to remember that you have rights. Most people never exercise their rights because they don't even know they have them. But you know now, and knowing changes everything. So let me ask you again, the same question I asked at the beginning. Have you ever said, "I'm sorry" after an accident without thinking? Don't feel bad if you have. Almost everyone has. But now you know better, and knowing better means you can do better. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go to the comments and type "never again." Make that commitment publicly. Not for me, for yourself. Because the next time metal touches metal, and statistically, there will be a next time, you are going to have a choice. You can be the driver who blurts out an apology and spends the next year fighting insurance companies, Or you can be the driver who takes a breath, stays calm, says almost nothing, and lets the facts speak for themselves. One of those drivers sleeps better at night. One of them keeps more of their money. One of them doesn't regret the first 3 words out of their mouth. Be that driver. And if you want to go even deeper, if you want to know the 3 other phrases that seem innocent but will destroy your claim, or the single question police officers are trained to ask that most drivers answer wrong, then comment the word protect, and I'll make that video next. Because this isn't about being paranoid. It's about being prepared. And preparation is the only thing between you and a mistake you can't take back. Drive safe, stay smart, and for your own sake, stop saying sorry.